All right, let's go ahead and get started for today. Welcome, everyone. My name is Mike Webb. I identify as Chicano in Chickasaw. I am the Public Engagement Manager here at the museum, and I have the pleasure of being part of the team that offers these virtual art talks here at the museum. So thank you for joining us for Heard Museum's continuing series of virtual art talks. It's our great pleasure to welcome our panelists today, our discussion host, Charles King of King Galleries in Scottsdale, Arizona, and artist Jennifer Tafoya, acclaimed potter from Santa Clara Pueblo. As always, if you enjoy learning about these art forms and the museum's collections, I encourage you to visit the Heard Museum's Billie Jane Bagley Library and Archives. The library is free and open to the public Monday through Friday, and it's a fantastic place to learn more about the artists and works presented in the museum's collection. Available now in the library is the Maria and Modernism catalog, which includes an essay from Charles King himself. The catalog can also be purchased in Books and More during our open hours, Monday through Sunday. Virtual art talks are possible thanks to support we receive from our Heard Museum members. Members get many special and exclusive benefits, including free museum admission every day, a 10% discount in the museum shops. Right now, it's 20% for the spring sale. And in the cafe, invitations to members-only events, lectures, exhibition previews, and more. Members also receive discounted event tickets and early admission to both the World Championship Hoop Dance Contest and the Heard Museum Guild Indian Fair and Market. Those are all coming up next year. Join as a member today, please. You can purchase your membership online, on-site, or by calling in. Plus, if you join today, you'll receive a 20% member discount during the ongoing Heard Museum Shop sale, which ends on this Sunday. So before I introduce our program and moderator, I wanted to have a few housekeeping notes for our viewers. Today's presentation is a webinar, so you'll only see the screens and faces of our presenters, Charles and Jennifer. If you would like to propose a question for our panel, please write your question in the chat box or in the Q&A. You can find those by wiggling your mouse and you'll see those two buttons towards the bottom, chat or Q&A. We'll do our best to pose your questions during today's discussion. Captions are available. Again, if you wiggle your mouse and you look at the bottom of your screen, you should see a button that says closed captions. If you would like to use them, just turn them on with the menu bar at the bottom of the screen. All right. And with that, it is my pleasure to introduce our honored guest, Jennifer Tafoya, who is now a feature in our upcoming exhibition, Art and Soul, and Charles King. Charles?
Camera on here. Thanks to the Herd for having me to be part of this virtual talk, and it's great to be here to get to chat with Jennifer Tafoya. Jennifer, who I've known for probably more than 20 years, and it's been exciting to watch her evolve and change over that time with her pottery. I just need to get Jennifer out. Ah, there you go. Unmute yourself, Jennifer.
Okay.
There you go. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hello.
So we'll get started, and I'm going to be the moderator for this. So Jennifer's going to do all the talking. Believe it or not, it will not be me. So I thought we would start out with this piece, and I'll have Jennifer talk about it a little bit. This is the piece that she won last year at Santa Fe Indian Market, Best of Show, and that's an extraordinary achievement. That is, you have to win Best of Pottery, and then you go up against every other piece that has won its Best of Category at Santa Fe Indian Market. In order to win Best of Show, you have to enthusiastically get, the artists aren't there, but the judges have to get the other judges to fall in love with the piece and understand the complexity of it. And I thought this was a great place to start because I think it really speaks well to the career that Jennifer has created and the quality of the work that she does. And it's such a great story about this particular piece. So Jennifer?
Okay, so so basically, when I get ready for India Market, I try my best on everything that I do. Well, with this particular piece, I didn't really have like a whole lot of time, coming up with a lot of pieces. And I don't know. I kind of felt like drawing dinosaurs on this one, and I don't know, just like details, and I like details. But anyway, so the Wednesday prior to entering it, after I had gotten it finished, um, so me and my friend Thea, we were talking about naming it, what we were going to title it, because I don't usually title any of my pieces. It's hard. I'm not very good at naming them. And so I was looking at the dinosaurs on here, and they were saying, they look like they were caught by surprise. There's the small coelophysis on the bottom, and then there's a stegosaurus on the back side of it. And I told her, it's like, well, if I was to get a major award, I certainly would be caught by surprise. And then we laughed about it and, went around our day. And then I get a call the following, I think it was Thursday evening or Friday, I don't remember. And they told me to come in, and, I knew I got a big award, at least like best pottery or something. And I was like, already excited about it. And so go Friday morning, find out that I got best to show was so shocking for me.
What did you think when they announced your name?
I was just like, no way. Yeah. No, I couldn't believe it. No.
Well,
Yeah,
let's move.
I cried. Yeah. I was tongue tied. I didn't know what to say. I think I was just like in so much in shock,
Did
definitely.
you ever think you would win Best of Show at this
No.
point in your career?
Well, I mean, maybe, but it's like you expect it and you don't expect it at the same time. So
Yeah, that was an exciting moment.
mhm.
That's a great achievement. You'll
Yeah,
do it again, I know.
I honestly didn't expect it on this particular piece though.
So this is a video of, I thought now we talk for a minute about how Jennifer does her pieces. And this is a video of her etching into the surface of it. I thought I'd let her talk about what she's using to etch with and how she does her etching.
Okay, so the tool that I'm using is a modified embossing tool. I mean, it's like how you get it out of the store. And what I had found out is I had found rivets in my dad's tool chest, and I sharpened the rivet and put it in that embossing tool, and it fit perfectly. And so it made it a lot easier tool to draw with, versus an X-Acto knife. It gave me more control, and being that the metal was both hard enough to withstand the etching and also soft enough to be sharpened, it made it a huge, would that be, improvement, in my tool there, in my ability to get the details in there. And so what I will start with is like a uh, fully polished piece. This is after the firing. And then I use a China marker, which is kind of like a wax pencil. And I like it because I can sketch a design on there. And if I don't like it, I can wipe it off and it doesn't leave a mark on the surface. And so I'll start with the China marker. I'll sketch my designs on there. And if I like it, then I get my tool that I'm using here in this picture. And I'll start carefully drawing the images on. And like, um, I get the outline done first, and then I'll start doing the details.
Let's go to the coloration then. Once you got it etched, tell us a little bit about what this picture is and what you do to find the different clays that you use to color your pieces.
Okay, so like all the different colors of clays that I find, I'm an outdoors person. I love to be outdoors. I love to go fishing, hiking, hunting, yeah, all of the above. Usually when I'm out, doing one of those activities, sometimes I'll stumble across different colors of clay. and I'll collect, like maybe a small Ziploc bag full of it, take it home, try it. And if it works, I keep it. If it doesn't work, it just goes back outside. And some of them, I'll actually grind minerals. So like the darker blue, I grind the azurite and
That's the
add
one
it.
on the very bottom, the second one over from the left.
Yeah, and I'll add that to a white clay. And the white clay that I have is a very sticky kind of clay. It's got a real super fine texture to it, and it has a really nice adherence to the clay, like
Do you know if it's
the
a white kaolin clay or it's a white um,
mm,
sandstone clay?
it's like a kaolin. It's really super fine, and I don't know how to explain it, but it's like when you put it on, even on your skin, it sticks and it does not rub off unless you wash it. And so some of the minerals like that, when I grind it, and I'll mix it with a stickier kind of clay, and so that's how I'll get some of those colors to stick. I don't add like any other additives to it.
So this is a video of you kind of maybe talk a little bit about the colors, the clays you're using, and then this is sort of your process for painting them.
Yeah, so that's my working box. So what I did is I cleaned out an old watercolor tray, and it makes it a lot easier, to transport it and to work with it. And so all of my process colors are in there, and I will choose what colors I want to put on the piece, whether it's white, blue, red, you know. Um, Sometimes I'll mix colors and, to get like a different one. I mean, it works the same like watercolor.
I think that's an
Um,
amazing part of how your work has changed is that you are mixing more colors. You're creating more paintings on the surface of them than you used to do, don't you think? Or do you
yeah,
think?
yeah. Because like when I first started out, a lot of my pieces were very similar to my mom's and my dad's. And then I kind of just went off in my own direction, I think.
How much time does it take to paint something like this piece? Can it take
Uh,
a day or more, depending on how complex it is, or several days?
no, no, it doesn't take like not several days to paint it. Well, it also depends on the size. Like the size, like this size here would take me probably on average about 4 hours. And it also just depends on how much coverage I want on it. Like if I want a really thick white on it, then I'll keep reapplying and then wiping off, reapplying and wiping off until I get the desired effect. And if I'm mixing colors, I have to wait for it to dry and then blend, add different colors, blend. So it's a lot of blending, drying, wiping, blending. Yeah,
It's kind of mesmerizing watching the process of this. It's extraordinary, Jennifer. You do something that's so unique.
thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of trial and error.
In terms of the colors or in terms of the process? What do you think
Both,
the both?
both. Yeah, because like I found like lots of colors like with the same colors of yellow, and some of them will stick better than others, and some of them will work with the white clay that I have, that I use as a adhesive kind of. And I don't know. I try to find ones that will stick on their own versus adding the color on it.
Sure.
But finding like the blue clay, by itself is very difficult. And so I'm kind of making it um by adding the azurite.
So I thought now we might just have you talk about, for the rest of the time, talk about some of your pieces and the process and what you were thinking. So this is a very early pot of yours, probably close to 20 years ago now.
Yeah, that was probably made in, I'm thinking maybe 2005, 2006.
How did you come up with these ideas of doing fish and trout and the realism? I think that this was at the time, 20 years ago, this was so unusual and creative in terms of the placement of the designs. How did you start thinking of that?
Well, so it kind of started out like when I used to work with this gallery, Dressman's on the plaza, and Linda Dressman, she had informed me to make the fish be a little closer together and not so far apart. And so I had started doing that. And then how this design came about, because my fish back then looked, they had more polish on them, and they were a little more, um, what you call it? Uh,
Were they less realistic and more polished?
yeah, they were less realistic. And then I'd say about 2003, maybe 2004, then I started scraping out all of it and making them as realistic as possible. I just started with one small little 2-inch pot, and I liked it. I really liked how it came out, and I think everybody just like went crazy for it. And then I just that was that turning point there for that design, and that's when I started putting in more realism into it, while still keeping some of my family's designs into it, and it was
Mhm.
just what I do today still.
So here's two pieces just as an example. This is the one on the left is a plate that you did. That's a very, very early one of yours, which is
Yeah.
more, and then the one on the right is sort of a mid, probably 10 years later, kind of your more realism of where you were going with pieces.
Mhm.
Any thoughts on those? Like how you progressed over time?
Yeah, it's like, the piece on the left there with the lizards on it, that was more like how my dad and my mom did, their style, and then the piece on the right is what I ended up branching out, my own style.
Then you get to something like this one, which is almost hyper realistic. The scales and the detail and the little ants and the story that you create on them. That's an additional aspect that is pretty amazing.
Yeah. I think like with every piece I try to improve on, you know, I try not to like make the same one every single time.
Yeah.
They're all different. And then the stories that I put on them, they're just subject to your own interpretation, what you feel the story is.
But are you telling yourself a story when you're making it? Like this one is the horned lizards eating the ants, going into the anthill, which is the opening of the pot. I mean, it's genius what you came up with on this. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
The way you did the sand in the background. I mean, it's more than just things on a pot. You really create a whole mental story.
Yeah. And then like even the colors too, they're also their own story, like the reds and the yellows, kind of signify it could either be like heat or sunset or even just the color of the sand itself.
Oh, I love that. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah. Um,
Here's a couple of your birds. And I think birds are something you do amazingly well. And they must be very difficult to capture the realism of them.
yeah. Now with the brighter colors on these ones, I did acrylic.
Mhm.
Because like with the hummingbirds, they're so vividly colored and so metallic. I couldn't get that same color with the clay. And so like there's a combination of both the clay colors, which is the more matte kind of colors,
Mhm.
and then the really bright. And I thought that it worked really well together.
It creates a beautiful balance.
Yeah. So like
Do
it's not
people,
the
when
whole,
you do,
yeah.
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say it's not the whole piece that's painted in acrylic. It's just, just like highlights of it.
When you do birds, do people who are bird watchers, do they comment on the precision, the realism of the birds?
Yes. I have to say that entomologists are probably the craziest.
Really?
Yes, they're very, very exact. They want to see every part of that bug.
That's so funny.
Very accurate.
So here's one that you did a while back, which I think is an interesting variation that's more sculptural, where you have these fish in motion and the fish are actually extending out from the bowl.
Yeah. So what I started doing, I guess, more recently is I've been trying to keep a lot of flow into my pieces now instead of just like blocks or medallions. I mean,
Mhm.
which I don't mind the medallions, but I just like the whole piece to flow now. And this piece was, pretty fun. I just wanted to make it look like the fish were kind of jumping out of the pot. So I kind of took a little bit of both what the figures that I did and my usual, the trout. Um, yeah.
So speaking about the trout and about the motion, coming on this one, tell us a little bit about your lids. Your lids are for a long time were really a signature of your work. They look
Yeah,
so hard to make.
they are very hard to make. They can be frustrating too. Um, I think that the probably most frustrating part is getting them to fit properly. That would be, and sometimes they don't always survive the firing.
Yeah. What happens if one you get to fit and then it doesn't survive the firing and you have to make another one? Is that really difficult?
It can be, especially if I don't have the piece that it's supposed to fit on.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So don't break your lids, people. There's the rule.
Yeah, and then if you do break your lids, please send the bottom of the pot too.
There you go. So here's another one that I think is interesting because you have the mountain lion as the lid on top of a bowl with the mountain lions. This sort of thematic creation, thematic flow that you have on these pieces is pretty extraordinary.
Yeah. So it had three mountain lions hunting. And then on the bottom, it had an Avanu on going around.
So here's a couple of your insects that you do as well. So there's a bee and a butterfly,
Yeah. It's like a bumblebee.
bumblebee.
The
Where do you
Western
get to do the realism? Do you look at books on them or the internet, or where do you come up with your initial idea for some of the designs?
Both. I use the photographs to make sure that I get them anatomically correct.
From the man behind the curtain here, we have a couple of questions in the chat if you'd like to address them at this time. We had an anonymous attendee ask the approximate sizes of the pottery. This is about 5 slides back. And then another question, kind of in the same vein, was wondering if they were seed pots. Just wondering about the sizing, the typical sizing of your pottery.
As we go forward, we can talk about I can kind of give you an idea, or Jennifer can, the size of the pieces. This was about 2
Those are
inches by
about
2 inches.
Yeah. And they are seed pots. They're hollow on the inside.
So here's another one of your butterfly ones. So this was about 3 inches wide. Um, the motion and movement and the butterfly on the lower left, I think shows that layering of the colors that you started to do.
Yeah. It's like showing the sunlight, hitting the wing.
And are the little dots then pollen? Is that sort of your thought to create
Yeah,
a story around it?
it's like to uh like I don't know how to explain it. Just like a different visual design.
I
So
like
it's
how you,
supposed to like represent like pollen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love how when you look down on a piece like this, the way you think about it is as if you have 4 butterflies that have landed on your pot.
Yeah.
Your
So
perspective is wonderful.
the middle with all the waves, even though it's kind of zigzag, that's like the breeze. And then you have the spring blossoms and then the pollen and then the butterflies.
So now move on to some things that are not necessarily such Southwestern designs. So here's one of your first pieces that you did that was a dragon. This was about 6 inches tall. Why did you want to do dragons on your pottery?
Um, well, that one too. Yeah, it's also started out with a small piece, like a small 2-inch piece. I drew a dragon on it. Everybody seemed to really like it, and so I decided to do a bigger one. And I mean, I'm kind of partial to, Asian culture, and I do, appreciate it and like it. And also too, when I was working with Russell Sanchez, I'm sure you've seen maybe a couple of his pieces where I had done dragons on it, and he had mentioned to me that the dragon and the water serpent, that they both meant the same thing in both of our cultures. And I, at the time, I didn't know that, and I thought that was quite fascinating.
Do you think there's more freedom in terms of design work when you're doing something like one of the dragons because it's not real?
Yeah, but at the same time, everybody knows what they look like, and they want it to look like a dragon.
So here's one that you did with koi fish,
Mhm.
and I think again it's sort of this Asian connection and flow. Um, why
Yeah,
the
and then
koi or this
I
particular?
also I also had koi. Well, I still have koi. I have koi fish in my pond at my backyard, and that was also another inspiration for this piece here.
Talk a little bit about the background design, the waves behind the water ripples behind the fish.
And it's supposed to be like action, like moving water. And because if you ever fed koi fish, and you've seen, they splash and they jump and get really excited about food.
So here's another one of your dragon pieces, and it's just the clouds on this are extraordinary. It's sort of Asian feel in it. And as a piece that you did, that you won the Tony Day Award for innovation at Santa Fe Indian Market, it's sort of an Asian version of a water serpent, I think.
Yeah, yeah, that was interesting to do, because I was like trying to figure out how to make the two work together. I mean, because like also taking into consideration, that both of these creatures, mean the same thing in both of our cultures, and then trying to, make a water serpent look kind of like an Asian dragon was very, very was tough. But I think I managed to get it.
I included the larger version of this piece, the blow up, and the jar was about 6 inches wide, so it was a little bit larger for you. The little details sometimes you have in your pieces, like the little bird flying next to the dragon, sometimes you don't notice them at first and they're a surprise. Do you think
Yeah,
about,
I like to hide little stuff like that in there.
I know you do.
Yeah, so you'll find like sometimes little butterflies in the background. Like even on the dinosaur piece, the one that won, there's little tiny butterflies and little dragonflies in the background if you look. Even little lizards and stuff.
So I thought we talk now about your figurative pieces, because that's something that you started to do early on. You create these play figures and then etch designs on them. How did you start thinking about doing figurative work, actual play figures?
I started out with that. That's what I started with. When I was very little, like go when I was like 6, I made little clay balls, drew a little bit on them, and then as I got a little older, then I started making little clay owls and lizards, and then I also just started improving on them and trying to make them more realistic, but also keeping the more traditional type designs on some of them, like the horned lizard. And then on the on the fish one, that one I just did just the design of the fish. And the bear, I was trying to incorporate a lot of like what I would do on a pot.
So all of these in size are about under 3 inches. And here's sort of a group of the variety of animals you've done.
Mhm.
Is that a javelina and a fox and a badger and a horned lizard? And I think that's your only bee of your only bees.
I've only made 2 bees. Yeah, that, so whoever got those 2 bees, they're the only ones that have got them.
Do you like doing
And,
the animals?
and whoever got the javelina, that was also the only one I ever made. So yeah, I do actually enjoy making the animals. I think they're a lot of fun.
So about 10 years ago, this is the very first dinosaur that Jennifer made as a clay figure. Remember, it's about 5 inches tall, so it was bigger than all of her other animals. And it's the first time she did a dinosaur. I remember her bringing it into the gallery and was just blown away. And I was glad I
Yeah, and
had still had a photo of it.
this piece in particular was hollow all the way through.
Yeah,
It was
just the
probably one of the
detail
biggest.
on it and the teeth and everything and the eyes were phenomenal. Was it hard to get a good balance on the dinosaurs?
Yes, it is. Yeah, these ones were solid pieces. They were a lot of fun too. I really liked that show with the dinosaurs, the dinosaur figures. And then here I have this is a brown clay slip that I have. And I would fire it like how I would fire a red piece.
The colors are so interesting on these.
Yeah, well, I mean, being that a lot of the colors that I get, they are clay, and some of them will fire, and some of them will stay the same color. And these, in particularly, they do stay. The brown
I'm
stays brown, the green stays green, and
I'm just amazed. Sorry, go ahead.
one of my dog's hairs flew out of my face.
I can't believe that like the Stegosaurus, you're able to do that with all the different plates on the back and have it fire and have it not break.
Yeah, I just hope that doesn't happen.
So here's two of your recent dinosaur pieces. And the one on the lower one was about 7 inches, probably one of your bigger, maybe the biggest dinosaur one you've done. And the one above was probably about 6 inches. Tell us a little bit about the detail on these was incredible.
Yes, I was trying to outdo the best of show piece. Yeah, it
It's
was.
amazing that you can do all the little scales. How much, each section of these has to take so much time.
Yeah, well, it did take a lot of time. It took so many hours. I can't even tell you how, like just for each side, it took me probably a little over a month just to do the etching alone on that.
Really, I can
Yeah,
believe
because
it.
each individual little scale on each dinosaur, because there's three sides. There's three, there's a lot of dinosaurs on all those sides. And then, I mean, not only just the dinosaurs, scales, I've done all the plants. There's some flowers in there. There's even details in the dirt itself.
And the
Like rock.
perspective that you create is amazing. Like here, you've got a dinosaur in front of another dinosaur with the brontosaurus in the background. It's more than just
Yeah,
literal presentation. You really created a painting in clay that you etched out.
yeah. And then I think what I like about the colors is that it helps each individual pop out. You know, Otherwise they'd get lost into each other.
How do you think of the colors for the dinosaurs?
Mm,
Pick whatever you want.
well, it's pretty much like I will just paint it like brown. And then I'll start working like different color, like blending different colors into them. And then if they just end up like disappearing into each other, then I'll start adding more colors until I get what I want. So it's a lot of layering still.
So here's a couple of other pieces, just a variety of things that you've done. Jellyfish and nautilus.
Yes.
Where'd you come up with those?
Um, aquarium. And like watching a lot of those like under the sea uh documentaries, and find them quite fascinating. Jellyfish and nautilus, they're also very, very ancient and almost unchanged, for millions of years.
There's This piece was a larger one again. This was probably about 8 inches tall, 7 inches tall. And I think maybe the first time I saw you do stingrays.
Yeah.
And you put a lot into texture on this piece.
Yeah, the eagle rays. Yeah. Yeah, so I had seen photos of like big migrations of eagle rays, and just how they're when they're flowing through the water and feeding, and you just see them just like doing flips and rolls, and they're really pretty.
So here's a couple of other just kind of the funky things that I think you've done. Piranhas and blue bees,
Oh yeah, the Australian blue bees.
the Australian blue bees.
Yeah. I mean, who's seen blue bees? It's definitely interesting. It's like, why not?
Is there anything you've ever been nervous about any animal or something that you've been nervous about doing
Mm,
or been a challenge to do?
challenge. Mountain lions.
Really?
Yeah,
Why?
it's so tough to get the faces right.
I like when you did the piranhas, the one on the left. Both of these are about 3 inches because you created some. I don't know how you did it on the scales that they kind of flashed silver. They looked, they had this. I think it was mica. Was it mica that you put on it?
With mica, yeah. Like I blended mica into it to get that flash.
But when you turned it, you just got that flash of them as if they were in motion.
You have to use like a real fine mica for that one.
Well, on the bottom part of the jar on the left, you have a water serpent down there. Although people can't see the entirety, you can see sort of the body of the water serpent. Do you like that combination of incorporating real classic Santa Clara imagery with the realism of whatever is above it?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because like the water serpent, is the bringer of water and rain and clouds, and it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of I just feel like it's like part of it. But it works with both, water creatures and air creatures.
So here's a couple other pieces you did with from sort of an Ice Age series with the woolly mammoths. Did you like doing these?
I did. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I did find out recently that we did actually have, these creatures here in New Mexico. And I've actually found fossils of them.
Really? So on the one on the left, I think an interesting aspect. So that was about a 5 inch pot. The one on the right was about an 7 inch pot wide. The clouds behind the woolly mammoth. Well, there's the detail in the woolly mammoth. It's the clouds that I think are fascinating. They look so painterly and layered.
Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll scrape the entire background out, and then I'll start carving the cloud shape into it before I paint it. And then I'll paint the whole thing white, the clouds white, and then I'll start putting the shadow into the back, so that way it gives it kind of a 3D effect.
And here, the one on the left here, so this is about a 3 inch pot, was sort of your Asian version of the saber-tooth tigers. Is that right?
Yeah, I thought that'd be fun because, like, I've never seen anything like it, and I was like, well, I wonder what it would look like if we were to, instead of like tigers fighting or lions or just saber-tooth tigers. Let's do it.
I love it. Look at
Yeah.
the waves, the water below them. I mean, it's just, it has such a wonderful Asian sort of feel to it.
Yeah.
And then the one on the right is the terror bird. Is that right?
Yes.
That was a pretty big, that was about a 4 inch large seed pot.
Yeah. I thought it was kind of fascinating, just like a giant predatory bird, like a hawk, but that bigger than a horse.
Do you like the research? Is that as
I
much
do.
fun to you as doing the pieces?
Yeah, I do. Like I'll watch videos on them and I'll, learn as much as I can about them. And, I found out that even though, a lot of these birds were in South America, they did come up as far as Texas. And they probably were even found here in New Mexico.
So here's two recent pieces. One is a I think is it a garter snake? And then the other one are the blue sea slugs.
Yeah.
That's your most recent piece. Tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about these two.
So the garter snake is like in those, I don't even know how to say that. Is it peonies? Like a
Flowers.
peony flowers? Yeah. And I haven't really done, too many snake pieces, but I just thought it just came out so beautifully.
How it matches the shape with the design is what really was so fabulous, and sort of the in and out of the snake with the flowers around him.
Yeah. And even though I know that they're so hard to, to photograph, to really see it, but
Yeah.
when you see them in person, it just like really, really mind blowing. Like
I
all
would
the
say the
detail.
challenge is always that Jennifer's pieces are so highly polished, they are so difficult to photograph, but in person they are always spectacular. All right, the sea slugs.
And then the sea slugs. Yes, I had somebody ask me about what I thought about putting sea slugs on a piece. And I had thought about it and I said, well, okay, well, I'll try it. And so I did research. I did find out that sea slugs are quite difficult to draw. But I mean, I picked out three of my favorite and so I put them on there. I'm not exactly sure what part of the ocean they're at, but uh, I really did like how they came out. They got the blue sea dragon, you got the sea sheep, which has such a comical, just a goofy looking face. And to think that this is a real creature, that blows my mind. And then we have the opalescent sea slug. It's which I thought was really pretty, very
On that,
toxic, but real pretty.
on the background where you've got all the little circles in the tan area, and did you paint that over with so you do all the you etch all the circles, and then you
Yes,
do mica clay on top of that?
yeah. And then like see where it has like a little bit of oranges and reds kind of blended into
Mm-hmm.
it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like I add that afterwards.
like in the lower left where you have the oranges and the reds in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just to add a little more uh, dimensions to it. But what it's supposed to be is like uh, like sand and waves.
All right, so we've kind of gone through a variety of things. So now the big question is, what is next for Jennifer Tafoya in 2024? What are you doing for Indian market? What are you doing afterwards? Are you going to reveal any of the secrets to everybody here of what's what's coming up for you?
Well, I can't exactly say what I'm going to do for Indian market because it's going to be a surprise. But I can tell you that I am going to be doing some more collaborations with Chris Youngblood.
Good.
And we do have some really, really cool ideas. We hope we can get them, there at that show. And
Well,
I, uh, I think we're going to be doing something this fall.
yes, we'll have something here, probably in Scottsdale or in Santa Fe. We'll be having a show this fall, and then we'll have a show in Scottsdale again next spring. So
Yep.
a few times a year that we get to hang out.
Every February.
Every February, and then something in the fall in Santa Fe. I love that you always challenge yourself to come up with something new in design, in form. Um, I think that's a really exciting part of what you do. I think looking at these pictures, if people don't realize how diverse your work is and how much things change over the past 20 years, I think it is a great visual story of the success of your career. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, like I say, I try, I'm trying my best.
You
And
do a good job at
I
it.
find I find it's fun, to not get stuck in the same design and just to keep trying different stuff. And I mean, yes, it's a risk, but sometimes risks are worth taking. So
Absolutely.
mhm.
Anybody have any questions?
Mike here again behind the curtain. We have such a busy chat box today, so we do have about 15 minutes left to answer some of these wonderful questions from our attendees. I wanted to start at the top. Um, One of our first questions was from Sharon. Do you ever give your pieces a name? Is that typical for you to give your pieces a name?
No. Some of them, yes, I will name them, and if they're named, I will write it on the bottom of the pot. And sometimes I don't do that either, but um, it, it's very, very few of them where I'll title them.
One thing I will say Jennifer does, which is phenomenal, and I probably should have included a photo, is the bottom of one of her pots, because she will write every animal that's on the bottom of every animal that's on top on the bottom, so you actually know what it is. I always think that's great for the future, because some of the things I've had no idea what the dinosaurs and things I've had to research myself. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, just make it easier.
Awesome. A lot of people were also very interested in the techniques for color. So from Jeff, I'll kind of combine these questions to see if we can achieve the same answer. But Jeff asked if you do anything in your process after you paint the clay slip on the pot. And then another related question was, are the colors permanently fixed on the pot, or do you have to treat the colors to make them permanent?
Well, they are raw colors. I don't do anything to treat them afterwards. I mean, the colors will stay indefinitely as long as you don't get it wet or wash it.
Awesome. And are these pots fired before painting? Does the painting go on like an overglaze if that's the case?
They are painted after the firing. It's the last step.
Thank you. Okay, some other questions. Uh, what animals do you plan on etching in the future? I know you said it was a surprise for what's this year holds, but are there any animals you can let us know that you plan to feature in the future?
Mm, I no, I can't exactly give you an answer on that one yet. It's just pretty much when whatever I decide in the moment, know.
Gotta have the
Like
mystery.
if somebody asks me to, like, hey, could you put this on a piece, and if I feel up to it, yes, I will do it.
And Ursula asks us, how do you start with the design? Do you do layout drawing of the design first before you paint on the pottery?
Yeah. So that's when I use the China marker um, prior to etching, and then after the piece is etched, then I'll paint.
And asks us, your pots are different shapes. Does the shape dictate what animal will be used, or does the animal come in your mind first and then the shape?
It's usually the shape and then the animal. So like I'll make a bunch of pots, different shapes, and then I'll decide what I want to put on it afterwards. So I don't usually think of what I want to put on it prior to making the piece.
I think because you've
So,
only done a few carved pieces, and it's a lot more of it's been more of a challenge on those. I mean, it's easier when
Yeah,
you have Chris doing them, but then you're committed to it's going to be a fish, it's going to be a butterfly,
yeah,
as opposed to a little more free flowing ideas.
yeah. That would be the only exception, is if it's on a carved piece.
awesome. And one of our last questions was a request to show the best of show piece again with some detail.
Everybody, close your eyes. All right. I don't know if we can go any. Oops, sorry. There. I don't know if we can get it. I don't have anything closer version of that.
Is there any way maybe to describe a little bit of the scene that's in your best of show piece?
Uh, Let me see, hold on.
Is that better? Make it a little bigger. I don't think I have any shots of the other side.
Yeah, I do, but I don't know if I can share it.
It is too difficult. We definitely understand. One extra question was curiosity if there's any animals that you will not use in your pieces or anything you stay away from.
Any animals?
Is there anything culturally you can't do or personally you wouldn't do?
I think animals.
Have you done a Black Widow? Would you be scared to do spider? Are you scared to do spiders? You don't do spiders very often.
No, I don't do spiders that often. Usually have like a negative response.
And then
That's a good question. Ravens, I don't really do ravens. Like I think I've only done once. It's only not because of culture. It's just it's kind of a hard image to get on a black pot because it just disappears.
and maybe one of our last questions before our closing remarks today is another question directed towards the best of show piece. If you hid anything in the best of show piece, if there's any little surprises based off of the comments you were making earlier.
Yeah,
I think you
there's like
can see a little dragonfly, isn't there, right in front of the big dinosaur, in front of the tree? Isn't there a little dragonfly that's right there?
yeah, there's like I think there's a couple butterflies and a dragonfly in there. I remember. It's like,
Wonderful.
yeah.
Any last comments from you all?
Thank you very much for inviting us to do it. This has been wonderful to get to do and nice to chat with Jennifer.
Yep, thank you. That was fun.
We are so very, very thankful. I think we've had the most questions in the chat in a while for this virtual art talk. So thank you for being so engaged and willing to answer these. Some quick notes before everyone leaves. Again, thank you to our host and our discussion artists, Jennifer and Charles. It's such a pleasure. Again, you can find Jennifer featured in the museum for our upcoming exhibition, Art and Soul. That opening is on first Friday, May 3rd. If you're a member, you do have access to some special member openings before the official opening on Friday. And then again, Charles King is featured in the Maria and Modernism catalog for the exhibition Maria and Modernism that is on display now here at the museum. Please visit our library or our bookstore to check out that catalog and read the wonderful essay from Charles King and other scholars. And before you leave, please take a couple minutes to fill out our survey. We really enjoy being able to provide these talks to the community, and with your feedback, we can just make them better each time. So again, thank you to all our attendees. Thank you to our hosts and artists, and we hope you have a great weekend. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.